Bullying affects millions of people every single day, and almost nobody, not the person being bullied, not the bully, not the people watching, truly understands what is actually happening. Today that changes, and for the open-minded listener, what you are about to hear has the potential to change the entire course of your life. We are going to share with you a framework, the life's work of one of the most remarkable thinkers of the 20th century, that will reframe everything you thought you knew about bullying, about the person doing it, about the person experiencing it, and about what it all actually means. But before we get there, we need to introduce you to the man whose work makes all of this possible. Dr. David Hawkins was a psychiatrist, a physician, and a consciousness researcher who spent his entire life trying to understand one fundamental question. Why do human beings behave the way they do? Not at the surface level, not the behaviors themselves, but underneath them. What is actually driving people? What is the invisible force behind the way a person thinks, acts, treats others, and experiences the world? Over decades of research and clinical practice, Hawkins developed something extraordinary. He called it the map of consciousness, a scale running from the very lowest states of human experience all the way to the highest, that maps out every level at which a human being can operate. He was not interested in labels. He was not interested in judging people. He was interested in understanding them. And in doing so, he produced something that is perhaps the most compassionate and illuminating framework for understanding human behavior ever created. His book, Power versus Force, became an international bestseller. His work has been embraced by psychologists, philosophers, spiritual teachers, and ordinary people all over the world who recognized, when they encountered his ideas, that something profoundly true was being described. We think everyone should understand his map of consciousness, not as an academic exercise, but as a practical tool for understanding yourself and every person you will ever encounter. And nowhere is that understanding more powerful or more needed than when it comes to bullying. But first, the scale. Dr. Hawkins's scale runs from the very bottom of human experience to the very top. As we describe each level, follow it on the scale in front of you. At the bottom sits shame, a level most of us have touched at some point in our lives, that crushing, contracting feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with us, that we are not enough, that we do not deserve to be here. Above shame sits guilt, then apathy, the grey, flat feeling of having given up, then grief, then fear. Fear is one of the most common operating states in the modern world. The anxious mind, the person who cannot relax, who is always scanning for what might go wrong. Above fear sits desire, the endless wanting, the feeling that happiness is always just beyond what we currently have. Then anger, and then pride. Pride sits just below the most important line on the entire scale, and we will come to that line in a moment. Because above that line, everything changes. Above it sits courage. Then neutrality, the quiet, settled feeling of someone who is genuinely okay. Then willingness, then acceptance, then reason. And then the levels that every human being, if they are honest, genuinely longs for. Love, not romantic love, but the deeper, unconditional love that sees the best in others and wishes them well. Joy, not the surface happiness of getting what you want, but the deeper, quieter joy of being fully alive. Peace, the kind that does not depend on circumstances. That is simply there, underneath everything. And at the very top of the scale, enlightenment, the state of the great teachers and the great mystics. Rare, profound, a reminder of what human consciousness is ultimately capable of. 17 levels. From shame to enlightenment. That is the map of consciousness. If you would like to pause here and study the scale before we continue, please do. Take as long as you need. It is worth understanding deeply. This line, the 200 line, Dr. Hawkins called this the critical threshold, the single most important dividing line in all of human experience. Below 200, every level operates through what Hawkins called force. These states are life-draining. They take energy from the world rather than contributing it. They harm the person experiencing them and the people around them. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, anger, pride, all of them, without exception, operating below this line. Above 200, everything operates through what Hawkins called power. These states are life-giving. They build. They contribute. They make things better for everyone in contact with them. The threshold itself, the level of courage, is the turning point. The moment a person decides to face something rather than run from it, to be honest rather than hide. It is the first level above the line, and it is the beginning of everything that follows. Now, here is something that Hawkins proposed in his research, and which we share as a framework for understanding rather than a clinical fact. He suggested that approximately 85% of humanity is currently operating below 200. Let that land for a moment. Most of the people around you, most of the people on this planet, are operating from states of fear, anger, desire, grief, apathy, guilt, or shame. Not because they are bad people, but because this is where humanity currently finds itself on its journey. Again, if you would like to pause here and study this graph, please do. Understanding what sits above and below this line is central to everything that follows. Look at this group of people. Each dot represents a student, each one sitting at a different level of consciousness, because that is simply how human beings are. We are all at different points on our journey. This is not a judgment. It is just the honest picture of any group of people. Some are above the 200 line, operating from a place of power, building, contributing, moving through life with something solid underneath them. And some are below it, struggling, in pain in the way that low consciousness is always a form of pain, sitting in states of fear, anger, desire, pride, trying to find their way. Now here is something critically important to understand. Not everyone below 200 is a bully. A person can be operating from grief, from apathy, from fear, and be completely withdrawn, suffering quietly, causing no harm to others. Being below 200 simply means a person is struggling. It does not automatically make them a bully. But here is what is always true. Every bully, without exception, is operating below 200, always. This is the bully, not the most powerful person in the room, not the most confident, not the person in control. A person who is operating below 200 and directing that pain outward onto others. A bully is someone whose inner pain, whose fear, whose anger, whose shame, whose pride has no other outlet but to be directed outward, on to someone else. Because at that level of consciousness, there is no other way they know how to handle what they are feeling inside. This is not an excuse for bullying. It is an explanation of it. And the difference between those two things matters enormously. An excuse lets the bully off the hook. An explanation gives you, the person on the receiving end, something far more valuable, the truth. If you have experienced bullying, this final part is for you, and we want you to hear it as clearly and as completely as you possibly can. When someone bullies you, there is an almost irresistible human instinct to look inward, to ask, why me? What is wrong with me? What did I do? What does this say about who I am? And the answer, the real answer, the one that Dr. Hawkins' work makes undeniable, is this. It says nothing about you. Nothing. Not a single thing. The only information contained in a bullying interaction is about the level of consciousness of the bully. That is all. They were below 200 before they ever encountered you. They would have found a target regardless of who was there. Their behaviour is an expression of their inner state, not a verdict on yours. You are not what happened to you. You are not the words that were said to you. You are not the actions that were directed at you. You are a human being on your own journey up this scale. Your own unique, unrepeatable journey toward courage, toward love, toward joy, toward peace. And here is the truth that we want you to carry with you from this moment forward. You are perfect. Not perfect in the sense of never making mistakes or never struggling, but perfect in the deepest sense. The sense that your worth, your value, your place in this world has never once been in question. It cannot be taken from you by a word, an action, or another person's inability to operate above the level of their own pain. Bullying does not tell you who you are. It tells you where the bully is, and that is a place they can leave if they choose to, just as every one of us can choose, moment by moment, day by day, to climb. That is the real work of a human life, not the title, not the possessions, not the recognition, the climb toward love, toward joy, toward peace. Keep climbing.